Hello, welcome. My name is Bradley Pierce. I am the president of the Foundation to Abolish Abortion and Abolish Abortion Texas. I'm the Abolitionist Lawyer, and today we're going to be talking about and looking at a clip of Abby Johnson talking about equal protection for babies and talking about mothers who abort their children being subject to due process for their roles in that. Many of you know Abby Johnson. She's a leader in the pro-life movement. You know she's a former director of a Planned Parenthood clinic here in Texas, resigned in 2009, became pro-life. She wrote a book called Unplanned, became very popular, turned into a movie in 2019. And over time, she's become a more and more prominent voice in the pro-life movement. So now that's Abby Johnson. We're going to be looking at a video of her conversation that she's had here recently. Now, if you've been around for very long around the abolitionist movement, you know that two of the biggest differences between the pro-life movement, that is the leaders, organizations, politicians, and the abolitionist movement are two issues that abolitionists call ignore Roe and equal protection. Ignore Roe simply says that the Constitution is the law of the land. The Supremacy Clause of the Constitution says this Constitution and laws made in pursuance thereof are the supreme law of the land. Roe versus Wade wasn't made pursuant to the Constitution, so it's not the supreme law of the land. It's not binding on the states. It's not only unconstitutional, it violates God's law. Where the court ignores the Constitution, we must ignore the court. We sum that up by saying ignore Roe. And if you remember a few months ago, Abby Johnson actually came out and supported that, publicly supported defying Roe versus Wade. Yes, she said it could cause some disruptions, but it's worth it because babies are dying every day. So that was a great thing that she came out and did. Well, she's came out with another bombshell here recently, bombshell for the pro-life movement, and that is talking about the subject of equal protection. So that's another big difference between the pro-life establishment, pro-life industry, and abolitionists is where we come down on equal protection. Constitution requires equal protection. It says no person shall be denied equal protection of the laws. We believe that a fetus is a person, so they should get the equal protection of the laws. That means that the same laws to protect you and me as born persons should be the same laws to protect them as preborn persons. They're equally made in the image of God. We should do unto them as we would have them do unto us. We should love our neighbor as ourselves. That's what equal protection is. Well, Abby Johnson was recently being interviewed by Alex Clark. Her show is called The Spillover. It's on Turning Point USA. And Abby recently shared a clip of this on her own YouTube channel. And she titled it, "I Open Up About My Most Controversial Opinion on Abortion." And so Abby dropped another bombshell on the pro-life movement by coming out and talking about this concept that abolitionists call equal protection. So let's watch that clip now.
At this year's at this year's March for Life last week, there was a man there who was going around making videos, and he came up to me. I knew that he was definitely on the pro-choice side. And he asked me, would you want women who take the abortion pill to be prosecuted? And I thought that was interesting. And I thought about your movie and you going through that. I mean, if you were asked that, how would you have responded to that question?
It's an interesting question. I mean, I think it's one that we really have to weigh, right? When I first became pro-life, I was very much against prosecution of women. Like in all cases, I was like, no, definitely no, we can't, prosecute women. The longer that I've been in this movement, and I think the longer that I've been away from Planned Parenthood, and the more sort of brazen I've seen abortion become in our society, and women having, gosh, I just did a video on this woman who took an abortion pill on TV, right? I mean, abortion is supposed to be this like private thing, right, between a woman and her doctor, and then you've got women taking abortion pills on TV. You've got women, proudly proclaiming that they're having, 5, 6, 7 abortions. You've got abortion pills, being shipped in, through the mail. I think our culture's changing. I think people are becoming I don't think abortion is as a delicate issue as it used to be. I don't think women are as I don't think they're agonizing over this decision as maybe they used to be. And if we really believe that the unborn, the preborn are human beings, then I think we have to act like it. And if we're going to act like it, then I think that, there has to be penalty under the law for taking the life.
Let's pause it right there. You hear what she said? If we really believe that the preborn are human beings, then we need to act like it. And if we're going to act like it, then there has to be a penalty under the law for taking a life. That's what she said. What does she mean, act like it? She means, if we're going to say a fetus is a person, this is what I think she means. And I think as we keep going, you'll hear this is what she means. If we really believe that a fetus is a person, how do we treat other people? What laws protect other people? The 14th Amendment says, no state shall deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. That means that the laws that protect these people should be the same laws protecting these people. Equal protection, right? The question is, do we really believe a fetus is a person? Now, for the last 49 years, the pro-life movement has said a fetus is a person. But the bills, if you go look at the bills, and most people haven't done this, but I encourage you to do this, check into this. The bills that are actually being introduced and passed by the pro-life movement for the last 49 years, and even before Roe versus Wade, they don't treat a fetus like a person. They don't protect them by the same laws, right? We have homicide laws that protect us as born people. The fetus doesn't. They're not protected by the same laws. The laws that protect them are there's much lower penalty. Mothers are totally excluded. Mothers get a total immunity for hiring someone to kill their own children. And as Abby's going to talk about, there are some extenuating circumstances in many cases, but they're not protected by the same laws that protect us. And in fact, they weren't at the time of Roe versus Wade. The Supreme Court actually said in Roe versus Wade, they said that when Texas argues that a fetus is a person, they face a dilemma under the 14th Amendment. Because if a fetus is a person, why is a mother not a principal or an accomplice? If the fetus is a person, may the penalties be different? This is in the Roe versus Wade majority opinion, because our laws at the time in 1973 weren't providing equal protection. So this is why we lost Roe versus Wade. If the biggest, if not the main reason we lost Roe versus Wade in 1973, I believe it's one of the biggest reasons why we've been losing ever since 1973. We refuse to put forward laws that treat a fetus like a person, provide them equal protection of the laws. Right? What's the golden rule? Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Well, what are the laws that protect you and me? Those should be the same laws that protect preborn people, if we really believe they're people. But God said, what's the royal law? Love your neighbor as yourself. The second greatest commandment. As yourself, that's how you should love your preborn neighbor. So that's what we're talking about here. There has to be penalty under the law for taking a life. That's what Abby just said. The penalty under the law. That doesn't mean everybody gets the exact same penalty, but it means that everyone is prohibited from killing babies. Whether you're the mother, the father, the grandparents, the abortionist, whoever you are, you're prohibited from killing babies. And if you do, there's a penalty for that. And yes, every situation should be judged on a case-by-case basis, but that's how we protect born people. So if we're going to be consistent, provide the equal protection of the laws, that's what we should do for people before they're born too. So let's keep listening to Abby here.
A lot of people in the pro-life movement would disagree with you on this, Abby.
I know.
She knows. And this has not been the pro-life position from even before Roe versus Wade, like I just mentioned a minute ago. And that's why we've been losing. Because actions speak louder than words. If we're going to say a fetus is a person, we have to act like it. That means that we have to write bills that treat them like persons. We have to write bills that value their lives the same as our lives. Otherwise, we don't really believe they're persons, right? We have born privilege. Oh, laws to protect me, but not for thee. And that's been a big problem for the pro-life movement for the last 49 years. It's one reason why I call myself an abolitionist. I don't associate with that, right? I don't associate with the pro-life industry and the pro-life lobby who oppose bills of equal protection. I don't. I want bills of equal protection. I want bills that provide equal protection, that treat a fetus like a person from the moment of fertilization. And like Alex says here, a lot of people in the pro-life movement would disagree with you on this. You know, Abby? She's like, I know. Well, I know too, because I've been a part of putting forward bills of equal protection in Texas and the states across the country. And guess who kills those bills? The pro-life lobby, because they oppose equal protection. So let's keep watching.
I know they would. Now, I'm not saying that, we have to lock every woman up or whatever. That's not what I'm saying. But I have come to a position where I believe that that there does need to be due process.
All right, pausing right there. So like she says, I'm not saying that we have to lock every woman up, but I've come to a position that there does need to be due process. What does she mean by due process? I think what she means is that the justice system, right? The justice system that protects you and me, that protects our lives from homicide, from people killing us, that same justice system should protect people before they're born. If we really believe they're people, then doesn't that make sense? Doesn't that make sense? Right now, we say, oh no, that justice system doesn't protect you before you're born. There's a much lower penalty. And mothers totally are immune from any sort of penalty or prosecution at all. No matter how brazen they are, as we'll hear Abby talk about in a moment. So she's saying, that doesn't mean we have to lock every woman up, right? Every situation should be judged on a case-by-case basis by our justice system. We're not saying lock up everyone. There may be sympathetic, issues that need to be considered by the jury. Those are called mitigating circumstances. There may be extenuating circumstances, or what are called aggravating circumstances that make it especially bad. That also need to be considered by the jury and by the justice system, right? And also, nobody's saying let's go backwards and lock people up, or there needs to be penalties for people who have already had abortions. No, what we're talking about is what should the law be? The law should provide equal protection. Does the law do that today? No. So should people who get abortions today, should there be penalties for them? No. But we're talking about what should the law be? The law should be equal protection. The law should apply to everyone. No one should have a license to kill. It should apply to everyone equally. And so it should deter abortions in the future because it prohibits everyone from getting an abortion, right? And you cannot take a life without due process. So that's what she's talking about here. So let's keep on listening.
And there would be some women who have absolutely been forced and coerced into
or just completely ignorant and have no idea.
Completely ignorant, have no idea what's going on. Their parents have forced them into making this decision. Should they be prosecuted? Absolutely not.
Just so we're clear here, she's saying that there are situations where, they shouldn't be prosecuted, right? Legally, we would call someone who's forced into an abortion. That's duress. They're forced to do something against their will through some kind of threat of violence against them. Well, they shouldn't be prosecuted. They're under duress. Or someone like Alex talks about here and says, what about someone who's completely ignorant, right? Of course, they shouldn't be, right? That's called mistake of fact in our law. If they actually do not know what they are doing, well, then that there's a defense for that. They wouldn't be, able to convict that person either. So those are all things that already exist in our law. Those are the laws that already protect people, like you and me who are born, and protect suspects from being wrongfully convicted. Those laws would apply too. We're not talking about women who have been forced. We're not talking about women who are just completely ignorant of what they're doing. As Abby Johnson is about to talk about, there's a lot of women that doesn't apply to.
But there are women who are very knowingly, very selfishly making the decision to have 9, 10, 12 abortions, who are taking abortions on the steps of the Supreme Court out in the open, who are taking the abortion pill on national TV.
And I'll tell you, I was there in front of the Supreme Court reporting, because we had filed a brief, the Foundation to Abolish Abortion and Abolish Abortion Texas, 19 other organizations, 20 state legislators. We filed a brief in the Dobbs case that she was there. She was talking about. She was there too, and there were people in front of the Supreme Court taking abortion pills to kill their preborn children. It was horrific. That's what she's talking about. I was there, and it was happening right there. It's hideous.
Do I believe that those women should go through some sort of possible prosecution for the murder of their child? Yeah, I think there should be some justice there. And I think,
so, I mean, that's what we're talking about. There needs to be, what do we want? We want justice, right? We're not talking about going after anybody in particular or singling anybody out. You know, abolition bills of equal protection, they don't single anybody out. Everyone is equally protected by the law. Everyone is equally prohibited from committing abortions, right? No one gets singled out. That applies to moms, dads, grandparents. Everyone is prohibited from killing an innocent preborn child. This is what we're for. We're for justice. We're for equal protection. If a woman kills her child 6 months after birth, can she be investigated? Can she be tried? Can she be subject to our justice system? Of course. Well, why not 6 months before that baby's birth? Unless we're saying, oh, well, that's somehow a different person, and they're of different value once they go through the birth canal and they're born as they are before. But that's not what we say. That's not what the pro-life movement says. But that's what we act like for the last 49 years. And that's why I'm an abolitionist. Let's keep listening.
think there should be some due process. And so I have sort of come to a different opinion on that as I've watched our culture change.
All right, then they're going to move on to something else. So this is really the end of the clip. But as she says here, I've come to a different opinion on that as I've watched our culture change. And I'm grateful to see people like Abby, people with influence like this, willing to change their opinion, willing to consider the arguments that abolitionists are making. I've actually spoken with Abby personally, and I'm grateful to see that she's making this change. I want to be cautious, of course, about saying too much or celebrating too soon. I know she's still working through this, but these are very encouraging words that we're hearing from her. And I hope that more people in the pro-life movement will come out and support the principles of abolition and call themselves abolitionists and be abolitionists and support ignoring Roe and support equal protection for preborn children. So please continue to pray for Abby Johnson. Continue to pray that pro-life leaders would repent of the compromises that they've been making for 49 years and that they've been leading others to make. That's why we haven't been able to end abortion, I believe. It's because we haven't been going about it God's ways. You know, God says don't show partiality in judgment. God says love your neighbor as yourself. God says do unto others, right? God says follow his law. And if his law conflicts with man's law, who do we obey? God or man? We obey God. So let's stop following the Supreme Court when the Supreme Court says that our civil officials can't protect children. Well, God says to protect children. So who do I follow? The Supreme Court or God? The answer is clear. Of course it's God. Well, the Supreme Court says show partiality. Well, wait, God says don't show partiality. So who do we obey? The Supreme Court or God? Well, obviously God. So that's what we're about here. We believe in following the higher law as abolitionists, following the Constitution, following God's law above all. We believe in keeping the golden rule, do unto others as we would have them do unto us. Love our neighbors as ourselves. Provide equal protection, because that's what we want others to do to us. How do I want my life protected? How is my life protected? I should protect people in the womb the same way that my life is protected outside the womb. And we want to walk by faith. Some people will say like, oh, well, you can never do this. That'll never happen. Well, you know what? I serve a big God, and this is how he says we should do it. We shouldn't show partiality, and we should follow his law, follow the higher law. So I'm going to do his will, his ways, and trust him with the results. And why do we do it all? We do it all for the glory of God. And so that's what we're about as abolitionists. So I'm excited to see this from Abby Johnson. I hope that we see more of this from her, more of this from other pro-life people, that they become abolitionists and start espousing the principles of ignore Roe, equal protection, walking by faith, doing it all for the glory of God. Until next time, I'm the Abolitionist Lawyer, encouraging you to keep your hand to the plow, keep praying, keep preaching, keep working. God bless.